What's going on, guys? This is Foresight Capital, and today we're going to talk about Palantir stock and do a quick analysis on where we think that the price could go based on the overall trading over the past 2 months, which has been absolutely insane and made it one of the hottest stocks out there to own amongst Wall Street Bets subreddit, Twitter, and even on YouTube. The stock has gone from under $10 per share to over $33 per share since its IPO, and today we're going to take a look at the technical side of the chart, as well as just some of the competitors and institutional buyers that are within Palantir to see whether or not we can come up with a reasonable price target for the upcoming weeks and months, and whether or not it's a purchase right now. For full disclosure, I do have a 100 share position in Palantir. I purchased at just over $30 per share and sold a covered call at $33, which brought my cost basis down to about $28.16. So I'm up only about 10 cents per share on it right now, and I do have some limited upside, but I actually purchased during this decline, which happened after Citron Research came out with a little bit of a report on Friday after Thanksgiving saying that they have a price target of about $20 per share and that the stock has absolutely removed itself from the company and become sort of Palantir stock separate from Palantir company, meaning that it's got a mind of its own, and I believe they called it essentially like a casino. So a lot of traders have been treating it that way, and I did get caught up in the hype a little bit and bought above where my overall target would have been to purchase, but my price target is substantially higher, so stick around for that towards the end of the video. So we've got a very pretty chart here on Palantir. We don't have a ton of past data because the company just went public at the end of September, meaning that we've really only got about 2 months worth of data collected here for how the stock's traded. And over the past 20 days, we've seen the stock go from under $10 per share to over $30 per share. If we zoom out to a 1-year chart, we can see here that after their IPO, they traded sideways for quite some time before any sort of volume and any sort of upward price movement really picked up. But they've really taken off since that time, and over the past 20 days have been on a major tear, up almost 300%. So we can see here that the chart is set up nicely, but we did have a bit of a pullback on Friday after the Citron Research report, which tends to have some negative pressure on the stock just because they have a bearish overall outlook. So I pulled up Fintel just to take a look at the number of institutional buyers that have actually come into Palantir, and we can see here that 179 institutions have purchased shares of Palantir, and they own about 12.3% of the overall outstanding shares of the company. If we pull up this chart here, the left-hand side is green because, again, institutional buyers or buyers in general were not able to buy until the end of September. And we can see that there wasn't really a whole lot going on between September and the beginning of, or the middle of October. But towards the middle of October and all throughout November, we just saw an absolutely insane spike in institutional buying, which has not only helped the run-up, but also helped retail traders see that there's some potential in this stock, because if the smart money's coming in, then there's definitely going to be some warranted purchasing from those companies that we need to take a look at. In fact, we can see some of the biggest companies out there buying are, if we sort this by number of shares, we've got BlackRock, we've got the Soros Fund, we've got T. Rowe Price, Morgan Stanley. So a lot of the big players out there are coming into this stock, which is very promising. Technically speaking, it's also set up nicely. We had a little bit of a pullback from the all-time highs here. We'll go ahead and label this sort of as a worst-case buy zone. I don't consider this a buy zone, even though we had a little bit of support because the stock sold off rapidly and bounced back above that and then traded sideways. This was all within 1 day. And we had a little bit of support again on Wednesday just before Thanksgiving, but this is such a short-term bounce and stabilization that I wouldn't really consider it a support level at this point. However, if you're looking to just buy recently or off of recent all-time highs, this could be a buy level for you to take a look at. However, this is not where I would be purchasing, although my actual cost basis is above that. Personally, if I were looking to get into the stock, I would be looking somewhere in the $24.50 per share range. If we get a little bit more of a pullback, this would be kind of my medium buy zone where I would consider dabbling and adding to positions that I already have, or to enter a position. And my ultimate buy zone would actually be not very far below that, but it would be the support from this little bit of a consolidation period that we had here. We'll call it right at $22.50 per share. So if you absolutely want to limit your downside risk and get a steal on a company like Palantir, the green buy zone would ultimately be where I would definitely be a purchaser. And there isn't a ton of room in between these in terms of dollars, but that's because Palantir is trading at around $30 per share. And percentage-wise, if you go from $22 to $33 per share, you've basically made a very solid return of about 50% over that period just to go back to retest all-time highs. So really great returns there. This is personally where I would be buying if we get a bit of a pullback. But what we need to see is a firm break below this level here, and then a trend downward to somewhere in the 22 or 24.50 per share range. And if we broke that, I would start buying if we use this level of support. So what you're going to want to see for any of these breaks below these support levels is for a day to a day and a half of trading above those levels or consolidating in order to show some strength in the stock for a potential turnaround. Until that point, I personally would not be buying, but what I wanted to pull up as well was just some of the competitors' stock prices and overall market values to see if we could get a good idea of where Palantir could go. Because the purchase price doesn't necessarily matter. If we have a stock target of $1,000 per share and it's trading at 30, you can enter at any time and be an absolute winner. So currently, Oracle, which is one of Palantir's largest competitors and probably the most established of all of the competitors out there, has a market cap of about $173.69 billion and is trading at a PE ratio of about 19, which is fairly low for the packaged software service industry, as we'll see if we take a look at some of the more fledgling companies that may be a little bit more direct competitors. Not direct meaning that they're competing specifically with Palantir, but actual just other companies within the industry that are sort of similar but not competing directly, like Shopify. We'll see that they also have about $126 billion market cap, but they've got a PE ratio of 659, which basically means that people are willing to pay a ton of money for future earnings because they believe that the actual stock can grow very rapidly. In fact, if we take a look here, just over the past 5 years on Shopify, we've gone from $27 per share to over $1,000. So that's the kind of potential that's possible with Palantir. They'll need to actually scale up their earnings a lot, but that's something that Shopify has been able to do. And if people are willing to pay $6.59 per share or dollars for every dollar of earnings, then there's absolutely room for the stock to run up a lot. We've got the same sort of story with Square. We can see that they've got about $100 billion market cap and a PE ratio of 450. So I would say that Square and Shopify are more in the realm of what we could see from Palantir. And if we actually pull up the Analyze section here, we will quickly see that they've got just about a $53 billion market cap. So with that being said, and keeping in mind that Square has about a $100 billion market cap, and Shopify actually has a $126 billion, and Oracle a $173, it would be reasonable to think that Palantir could get in that $100 billion market cap range if they're able to grow earnings at any rate, because remember, people are willing to pay unlimited amounts, it would seem, for earnings based on Shopify's and Square's PE ratios. So if we were to see something like a doubling in the market cap of Palantir, that would effectively mean that we should see somewhere in the $50 to $55+ per share range, assuming that they're able to trade with a similar style PE ratio and grow earnings in the short term, which has yet to be shown because, again, they've just had one earnings report and they had negative earnings per share, as we can see here. But just something to keep in mind that companies that are trading sort of like Palantir have $100 billion plus market caps or very close to it. So it wouldn't be unthinkable to see Palantir in the $50 to $55+ per share range, which is almost 100% return from where it currently is trading and would be still an absolute steal to buy at any of these levels. But technically speaking, that's where I would buy these individual shares. Again, I currently have a position which I'm down about $215 on, and I've got it on margin, but I have 100 shares of Palantir, and I believe I have a covered call there against it. So overall, just want to be fully transparent. I do have a position in Palantir at about a $30 per share cost basis, which was brought down by the covered call down to about 30. So I hope that this video brought you some value as far as the overall potential for Palantir, because again, just looking at some of the industry competitors, we can see that people are willing to pay for earnings. If earnings can come from Palantir, we can have absolutely insane multiples of that as far as stock price growth. And realistically, $50 to $55+ per share isn't unthinkable for the type of company that Palantir is. So don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more coverage on Palantir, and then leave a comment down below on if I should make any more videos and what you want to hear about in terms of Palantir. I appreciate you stopping by, and catch you in the next one.